Hey guys, welcome to episode 8 of completing the WGU Computer Science degree. My name is Ryan, and in this video we're going to be talking about computer architecture and operating systems. These two courses I took over the past several weeks, and they've been fairly tough, but I've been able to sort of navigate my way through those courses. And I'll just be going over an overview on those courses and what my sort of approach was. And I guess the second part of the video, I'll talk about what my sort of studying routine looks like, how I sort of set up for WGU and sort of go through each course, and I can sort of talk a little bit about that. So I will take you over to my monitor, and the first course I'll be going over, which is the first course that I took during the first sort of 3-week sprint, is computer architecture. So if I look here at my homepage, these are the courses that I've completed, and if I sort of count these, this is about 10 courses, and we're about 3 months into my term, plus 2 weeks of orientation. So that kind of puts me at about 1 course every 10 days I've completed, because that's like 10 courses over 100 days. So I think that pace is pretty good. Some courses kind of took a lot longer than others, like Discrete Math 2 took twice as long as Discrete Math 1. Fundamentals of Information Security took a couple days, while Computer Architecture took almost like a week and a half. So not all these courses are like completely balanced, but I'm doing pretty good at my pace. And the degree plan is showing me at about a little bit more than halfway completed through my degree, I believe. So I've got about 67 credits completed, and I got 53 left. So I think that's really, really good. And so yeah, I guess the first course I'll go into is computer architecture. So my approach for going through the WGU degree was that I wanted computer architecture and operating systems completed first, because I felt that it would give me like a really interesting perspective on like how programs work and get like executed on a computer. So I think this is like an interesting course. However, looking at the course material, computer architecture, I do have to say, and I do say this, I do have to say that it is really spread out between like super specific details and like not very specific details. So what I mean is that if I kind of look at like one section, so I opened up a section, Unit 4, Arithmetic for Computers, and if I kind of go into Introduction, abstraction and addition and subtraction here, for instance, it becomes like fairly interesting. You're working with ones and zeros, how like assembly code works, and it all kind of makes sense. The challenge activities are helpful, the participation activities are helpful, and these all sort of like appear on the exam. So this was like really interesting, and I enjoyed like working through these sections. And same thing with like multiplication. This is like very interesting to understand. And I didn't necessarily struggle with any of this part, but the struggle becomes like 3 or 4 pages later, where it starts like dropping like the most complex material possible. And I didn't really know how to like approach these sections, because they were really, really like specific, because these actually talked about stuff actually being done in like real processors, and it just went from like 0 to 100 in just like a couple pages. So like this stuff like right here, there is stuff on the exam that actually like cherry picks like really specific sections from like these really difficult areas. And when I was sort of like studying for the exam, I had to like cherry pick my way on like what I needed to study and what I didn't need to study. And I felt that was like made this course an order of magnitude more difficult than it should be, because how do I really know what's going to appear on the exam? And how do I know if I'm actually skipping a section that will appear? So this kind of like plays itself out over like the 7 units. There's, yeah, again, like introduction stuff on like the first couple areas, and then, you know, halfway into the unit, it just like, again, it just starts dropping like all these different schematics and different architecture stuff. So I think my hope for this sort of course is that like as it, you know, it's kind of like a new course at WGU, so I don't really expect this to like be fully fleshed out, but I would like to sort of see this get more streamlined to like actually only include the material that really needs to get like studied for the exam. And if that could be done, that'd be great, because like, look at all these schematics. A lot of this stuff I kind of skipped, but like when like certain areas like these details actually appeared on the exams, like I kind of had to like sort of do like a process of elimination guessing to like get it right. So I did pass the course, and I did spend 1 week and 4 days to study for it. So that's a little bit faster than like, you know, than sort of like expected. But yeah, this course was like, it certainly needs work. And I would hesitate to like encourage people to enroll in this course. I would give it maybe like a couple months before, you know, more of like the excess information is removed, and it being like more sort of closely aligned to the exam. When I did take the objective assessment, my coaching report put me at about an 85%. So I did pretty well on all the sections, but like, I don't necessarily think that when I was sort of taking the exam that I felt entirely comfortable with the questions that appeared on it, because some of them were like really, really specific. Yeah, computer architecture. That course was a lot of work, and hopefully it does get improved in the future. The next course that I took after computer architecture was operating systems, and I think that operating systems is actually a really like awesome course to take, especially after computer architecture, because computer architecture talks about like how the actual like physical hardware works on a computer, and operating systems actually shows how like the kernel, which is the operating system, how it sort of manages all the hardware and manages like the memory, manages like the CPU, the IO bus, etc. So when I was going through operating system for programmers, again, I kind of faced a little bit of a sort of similar scenario with computer architecture, although not as bad. There is a lot of material to memorize. There's about 14 units of material, and the total pages of material, if I were to add them up, is like 700 pages. So this course took me another week and a half to go through, similar to computer architecture. But when I was sort of going through this material, if I sort of open this up, it's split into 5 modules, and each module has like specific chapters related to it. So I think I don't have access to this anymore. Oh yeah, right here. There you go. So let's like take one of these examples, which is chapter 7, main memory. When I was going through this textbook material for operating systems, I read every single sort of unit once, or every single chapter once. And as I was reading it, I basically used a green highlighter to highlight things that I read once, but I didn't necessarily feel like I had to sort of read it again, because it's like, you know, it's kind of like redundant information, or information that goes a little bit too deep. So when I was sort of like highlighting and going through the material for operating systems, I made sure to like focus on things that were like the bigger picture, on things that were sort of essential for understanding how operating systems work. So I definitely focused more on like the blue terms, on like vocabulary terms, and I also like made sure to like leave things that explained how like certain things worked. But there was other sort of sections, if I scroll down, if it starts getting like really, really deep into like how a specific operating system works, like let's say the Oracle Solaris, if it starts explaining this stuff, like it starts going really, really deep into like the architecture and like how it sort of allocates memory. And I have to sort of choose what and what not to memorize, because this again goes a little bit too deep into like one specific operating system. And I find this stuff really interesting, and as I was reading it the first time, I kind of got like a fair good grasp on how like certain operating systems worked. But when this is sort of like, you know, this is all just one sort of chapter, and it kind of repeats on like every single chapter, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of memorization and a lot of code. So operating systems I got through by, again, kind of focusing on the big picture, making sure I don't really go down the rabbit holes of like one particular operating system on like how it works. I really just wanted to understand like a really good overview on how the kernels work, processors, management of memory and storage, and all that good stuff. So I passed that class, and I think I got, again, kind of similar to computer architecture, I got about like an 85, a little bit less than 85 on it, and I spent about a week and a half studying for this. So this is my coaching report, and I think most of the sections were fairly balanced. The intro, I got a little bit lower because it's only 13%, but yeah, kind of similar to computer architecture. So yes, those were the 2 courses that I spent 3 weeks on, and it's a lot of work, a lot of memorization, a lot of sort of vocab and understanding the big picture, but I made sure that I paced myself, that I didn't necessarily like force myself to like understand how things work. I just gave myself patience and time to like understand the material. So that's computer architecture. I think this was actually a little bit less than a week and a half, and this one was a week and a half. So yes. So that brings me to today, and I have taken about a 5-day break because I had things that were like building up at like work, sort of, you know, things in my personal life, like I gotta like sort of exercise and like meal prep and, you know, take care of the house and all that stuff. So I took about 5 days to sort of catch up on everything, and that kind of puts me at today. Everything is kind of complete, everything is good to go for the programming courses. And the first programming course that I will be taking is actually Data Structures 1. So looking at Data Structures and Algorithms 1, I kind of see like certain data structures that I'm like familiar with, that I've heard about in like a textbook, like hash tables. You got hash tables, linked list, stacks, queues, different sorting and algorithms, quicksort, trees, graphs. I kind of saw them on like the Data Structures and Algorithms 1 course, and I think that it'll be interesting to like go through, and I will be sort of giving you guys an update on that.